Last year's events, particularly the Paris attacks, had apologists for Islam in full damage control. I'd never seen that level of desperation and stupidity before. And you've probably seen this, you've probably seen stupid teenage girls on Facebook sharing this hippie crap. Oh guys, we all need to come together, love is all we need. All these people that want to kill us, they just need more love. Just more love. Remember guys, hashtag terrorismhasnoreligion. Retweet it. Pass it on, that's something they were saying, pass it on. And so something that these people will do is they'll spread memes. They'll try to just spread blatantly false information. Just put it out there and hope idiots share it. And since people are fucking stupid and will just share memes without doing any research whatsoever, these things actually spread. And one that I probably see most often is this one. This is a small excerpt made into an image from a TV show hosted by an Australian comedian, Adam Hills.
And for those accusing me of defending Islam, which ain't a lot have said that this week, I'm defending common sense. There are 1.6 billion Muslims in the world right now. 1.6 billion. As someone pointed out on Twitter this week, if Islam really bred terror, we'd all be dead by now.
So the first argument here is, we're not all dead, therefore Islam's fine. And you can use this to defend literally anything that is dangerous. Forget all the millions upon millions of people that Islam's killed, because we're not all dead. A fun little game to play with Islamic apologists is to just check if their argument also applies to Nazism. We're not all dead, therefore Nazism's fine. That's likely how you'll know it's Islamic apologist bullshit. It also helps that we non-Muslims in the West do not live in Islamic countries. If we did, I guarantee a lot more of us would be dead. A certain percentage, whatever you think it is, a percentage of Muslims are Islamists. You think France has an Islamist problem now at 9% Islamic population? Just imagine it at 50%. Then he mentions Islamic State, Boko Haram and Al-Qaeda, which are far from the only terrorist groups and far from the only Islamists. But he says these are small portions of the Islamic population. And this should be a very familiar argument.
ISIS couldn't fill a AA ballpark in Charleston, West Virginia, and you were making a career out of ISIS.
But no, it's not just ISIS. It's all jihadists. It's global. It's a phenomenon of global jihad.
It's gross. It's racist.
And now the cherry on top with this little meme. Less than 2% of all terrorist attacks are because of Islam. Wow, less than 2%. Now that's an interesting claim. And seeing as it's the start of a new year, I think now's a good time to test this. So if this is correct, then we should see hardly any Islamic terrorist attacks on last year's terror attack list. So first thing in January we see here, Boko Haram. That is an Islamic terrorist attack. What are the chances of that? About 2% according to Adam Hills. And if we keep going down here, we see Islamic freedom fighters. That's Islamist militants, Boko Haram. If we just keep going down, we see that the overwhelming majority of these attacks are Islamic. Yeah, Adam Hills, tell me about the 2%. Tell me about the 2% Muslim attacks. So by now it should be blatantly clear that this is fucking retarded, and so is anyone who shared it. But let's go a little bit further and find out exactly what percentage of terrorist attacks are committed by followers of Islam. Okay, so I'm going to go through this as quickly as possible, and I'm not going to show you me going through the whole thing because we'd be here all day. Let's start with Boko Haram. An important thing to note is the number of people that are being killed. So here it says 15 to 25 plus. I'm just going to be very fair and say 15 for that one. One dead, that's Islamic freedom fighters. Another one dead, Islamist militants. An estimated 2,000 plus dead, Boko Haram. And now we get to an unknown, and you'll find these are generally Islamic attacks. So this one was in an Islamist area. They've been having problems with Islamist militants. Yeah, there's just no way this was a non-Muslim. That is an Islamic attack. Here we have a bombing in Egypt. It says unknown again, but Egypt's 95% Muslim. So we're not going to be marking this as non-Muslim. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create 3 categories. I'm going to create a category for Muslims, a category for non-Muslims, and a category for cases like this one, in which it's highly likely that the perpetrators were Muslim. Here we have a suicide bombing in Turkey, female suicide bomber. A Marxist group took responsibility. These 2 sources are fucking garbage and don't really tell us anything, but thankfully if we go over here, we have the full story. So, the suspect was identified. They had photos with insurgents from ISIS, and the Marxist group removed their claim of responsibility. So, This is a suicide bombing in a 98% Muslim country. Suspect had photos with insurgents from ISIS. I think it's pretty cut and dry. This was a Muslim attack. This one's a so-called lone wolf attack from a Palestinian. What religion do you think Hamza Muhammad belongs to? Yes, you'll find these lone wolf attacks are predominantly Muslim. So when going through the terrorist attack list, a bit of common sense is required, and if you've done it right, then you should have roughly the same result as me. So now comes the fun part where we add it all up. And we've established that I'm bad at maths, so this should be great. I've used my amazing math skills and a computer to add up the terrorist attacks for this year, and these are the results. In January, 31 attacks, of that 28 Islamic, 2 non-Muslim and 1 likely Muslim. 2,349 dead, via Muslims 2,307 and via non-Muslims 42. So if we look at non-Muslims compared to Muslim attacks, we see this trend continue all the way down. And they've probably added some more to December since I counted this up, but this is basically it. Now let's look at the totals. In total we have 381 attacks, 336 Islamic, 17 non-Muslim and 28 likely Muslim. 7,216 dead via Muslims, 6,910 via non-Muslims, 112 and via likely Muslims, 194. For percentages, sadly the percentage of Islamic attacks is not anywhere close to 2%, it's 88.2%. I've rounded the decimals obviously. Likely Muslims is 7.3%, non-Muslims 4.5%. Now for the total people killed in Muslim attacks, that's 95.8%. For likely Muslims that's 2.7%, and for non-Muslims that's 1.5%. Now we can go a step further. If we were to safely assume that these ones under likely Muslims are in fact Muslims, then the results are as follows. Islamic attacks in 2015, 95.5%, and the percentage of people killed in 2015 by Islamic attacks is 98.4%. And you can keep going back and doing this for every year and you'll get similar results. The overwhelming majority of terrorist attacks are Islamic attacks. What this shows is that terrorism does in fact have a religion, and that religion is Islam.